Hey friends, join me in today's study in Exodus chapter 1. Decided to start Exodus with you, a verse-by-verse journaling through the Bible. So turn to chapter 1 and let's set up our station to begin. Before taking any notes or making highlights, read the passage and ponder on every single word. Once you are done, go ahead and just circle every name that is associated with God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Let's begin highlighting. I don't have a specific order on what to highlight and what colors to use, but I will add a description below if you want to focus on specific themes. For me specifically, I highlight words that stand out to me, phrases that speak to me, or even questions that I have about a specific passage, so I will highlight that and make a note in the margin. Let's start by talking about the background of Exodus. So the book of Exodus is a literal historical account of God orchestrating miracles and important events in the course of fulfilling his promises. The book was written by Moses, a fact every New Testament author and even Jesus himself testifies. The Exodus story is incredibly rich in pictures of sin, redemption, baptism, the kingdom, and judgment. Exodus is especially rich in pictures of Christ and his redemptive work. And above all, the story of Exodus is a story of God's sovereignty to accomplish his purposes in and through the lives of men. So as we study this account, I'm going to be taking some time in other places to examine the biblical text. This is where my Bible references come in play. I will be looking in Genesis and also the book of Acts. I am ready to start taking notes, and I hope you are too. To kick off my study, I'm going to read an introduction from my Bible handbook from Grace & Company. I will link this awesome handbook down in the description below for anyone that is interested. Aside from my favorite commentaries, this has been so resourceful for me. All right, let's start. Verses 1 to 7, we are learning some important Jewish history. The author Moses recounts the history of Israel entering the land of Egypt. This is actually referring back to Genesis 46, so I'm just heading back there to read and compare the passages. In Genesis 46, we have a total of 66 people. The number excludes Jacob himself, and it also excludes Joseph's family, who were already in Egypt. So Exodus is actually taking count both Jacob and Joseph's family. Exodus 1 verse 7, Moses gives us a complete count of the house of Israel that entered Egypt, a total of 70. When I looked at my Bible reference, Acts 7 actually gives a description of the family of Jacob, and that number is 75 persons in all. And this number includes the 5 grandsons of Joseph, born to Manasseh and Ephraim. I absolutely love Bible references that are listed in this Bible, but if you have any additional ones aside from the ones I listed, share them down in the comments below. The account here in Exodus is a prophecy fulfillment from when the Lord told Abraham in Genesis 15 that his descendants would be strangers in a land that was not their own for 400 years. I did further research, so you don't have to, on verse 8, where it talks about a new king arose over Egypt who did not know Joseph. Verse 8 is packed with so much history, I wish I had more time to share, but to recap it, during Joseph's reign, the rulers of Egypt were actually foreigners. They came from the line of Shem, Noah's son. Now we are seeing a dramatic change in a region where the Egyptians are back and ruling the land. Now, this new dynasty arrival has resulted to an immediate change in the living of the Hebrews in Egypt. Moving to verses 9 to 14, Pharaoh Ahmose tells the Egyptians that they have a reason to fear the Hebrews. The English translation of verse 9 is kind of tricky. It says that the Hebrews are more mightier than the Egyptians, but Israel did not outnumber all the Egyptians. The Hebrew translation reads, Israel is too numerous and mighty. So this new ruler was concerned that there's too many Israelites, which threatens his rule. So he appoints taskmasters over them, enslaving them in hard labor. Pharaoh Ahmose, his main concern was stopping the growth of the people. And it's so funny because in verse 12, we're told that his strategy did not work. Seems like that the harder the Egyptians punished the nation with hard labor, the harder they grew. This is exactly as God intended it to be. When God's people are persecuted, God grows his people. And this truth is even echoed in the New Testament in several ways. One, we see the church repeating this history. When the first century church suffered under the worst persecution, they grew the fastest and multiplied in number. And then we also see it echoed in our personal lives. James 1:2-4. We are called to rejoice in trials and persecutions, knowing that the test will produce greater strength in our personal walk and faith. Moving to verses 15-21, it's been 25 years and Amos dies, and we have his son take over, and he has a new tactic to stop the growing of the population of Israel. This new ruler gives a command to the head midwives of Israel to begin killing all the male children at birth. So I guess the plan was to make it look like that these children died at childbirth. Wow, how evil. I see God's hand in this account. God has intervened to protect the integrity of the nation of Israel. So he ensures that these women were God-fearing and unwilling to obey the Pharaoh's instructions. Pharaoh ends up realizing that there's still young Jewish boys running around, so he confronts the midwives. And they give an excuse. They say the Jewish women are vulgarous and give birth before the midwives can even intervene. Yeah, it was a lie, but it was one that was intended to protect God's people in the face of a greater sin. Kind of similar to the choice Rahab faced. And as a reward, God establishes a household for them, meaning he gives them husbands and families and rewards them for their faithfulness. What a fruitful study. Thank you so much for joining me today. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and until next time, may the Lord richly bless you.